Please remember, the information in this video is for educational and informational purposes only, and is not a substitute for professional career, financial, or mental health advice. The results discussed are not typical, and your experience will vary based on your individual effort, background, and circumstances. Always consult with a qualified professional before making significant life decisions. There's a story about a man named David, and David was doing everything right. He woke up at 5 a.m. He took the cold showers. He read a book a week, listened to every podcast on success, and had a vision board that looked like a billionaire's shopping list. He set goals, he tracked his habits, he journaled his gratitude. On paper, he was the poster child for self-improvement. But every year when he looked back, he was standing in almost the exact same spot. His income was flat. His career felt like a treadmill. The big, audacious goals on that vision board felt more like a cruel joke than an inspiring roadmap. He was putting in 100% of the effort for 1% of the results. And the most frustrating part? He had no idea why. He was following the exact blueprint that all the gurus and books were selling. Why wasn't it working for him? Does any of that sound familiar? Have you ever felt like you're playing a game, but you're the only one who doesn't know the rules? You see other people, maybe people with less talent, less drive, less intelligence, just soaring past you, and you can't figure out what they have that you don't. It's an incredibly isolating feeling. You start to think, maybe I'm just not cut out for it. Maybe this is my limit. Maybe my potential isn't what I thought it was. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the problem isn't your effort, your intelligence, or your ambition? What if the problem is simply your perspective? See, David was trapped inside a jar, and he was trying to read the label from the inside. He could see out, but his view was distorted by the glass. He couldn't see the ingredients list, the warning labels, or the brand name written in giant letters on the front. He was too close to the problem to see the solution. All the books and podcasts in the world couldn't give him the one thing he desperately needed: an objective outside view of his own situation. That's what we're talking about today. We're talking about breaking out of the jar. This video is for anyone who feels stuck, plateaued, or frustrated despite putting in the work. We're going to give you the 5 critical signs that you've hit the ceiling of what you can achieve on your own. These aren't obvious signs like, "I'm not making progress." These are the subtle, insidious patterns that show up when your own blind spots are holding you back. By the end of this video, you'll have a crystal clear framework to diagnose your own situation and understand if an online coach isn't just a luxury, but the most strategic investment you could make in your future. So, let's get into the first and possibly most common sign that you're trying to read the label from inside the jar. The first sign is this: you are drowning in information, but you are starving for results. You know the feeling. Your browser has 50 tabs open, each one a different article on the 10 habits of highly successful people, or the ultimate guide to productivity. Your podcast queue is filled with interviews from titans of industry. Your bookshelf is groaning under the weight of self-help books you swore you'd read. And your hard drive is a digital graveyard of online courses you bought on a flash sale, promising to teach you everything from coding to copywriting. You are a professional student of success. You consume, you learn, you highlight, you take notes. You feel busy. You feel productive. But when you close the laptop at the end of the day and look at your actual life, your career, your fitness, your business, what has really changed? For most people stuck in this cycle, the honest answer is, not much. This is the great paradox of the modern age. We have access to more information than any generation in human history, yet so many of us feel more stuck than ever before. We have the blueprint for 1,000 different skyscrapers, but we haven't even laid the foundation for our own small house. The problem is, information isn't the same as transformation. Knowledge isn't the same as progress. You're experiencing something called analysis paralysis. You're so busy evaluating all the possible paths that you never actually take a single step down any one of them. Should I follow the high-intensity interval training plan or the long-duration cardio program? Should my business focus on Instagram Reels or long-form YouTube content? Should I learn to day trade or invest in index funds? Each expert you listen to gives you a different, often contradictory, answer. So you get stuck in a loop. You research a strategy, feel excited, get overwhelmed by the details, start looking for a better strategy, and the cycle repeats. You're on a hamster wheel of learning, and you're mistaking the motion for forward movement. This is where a coach fundamentally changes the game. A good coach's primary job isn't to give you more information. In fact, it's often the opposite. Their job is to act as a world-class filter. They take the entire universe of overwhelming, confusing, and contradictory information, and they distill it down to the 1, 2, or 3 things you need to do this week to move forward. They cut through the noise. They clear the clutter. They hand you a map, but more importantly, they point to the very next turn and say, "Go here." Ignore everything else for now. Think of it like this. Trying to build your future from YouTube videos and blog posts is like trying to navigate across the country using a stack of 1,000 different paper maps from different decades, all spread out on your floor. You can see all the roads, all the cities, all the potential routes. And it's completely paralyzing. A coach is your personal GPS. You tell them your destination, your ultimate goal. They assess your current location, your skills, your resources, your limitations. And then they give you one simple instruction. In 200 feet, turn left. They don't tell you about the turn you need to make 3 states from now. They just give you the immediate, actionable next step. Your only job is to make that turn. Let me tell you about a client I once worked with. We'll call her Jessica. Jessica wanted to start her own graphic design freelance business. For 2 years, she was trapped in the information vortex. She bought courses on branding, marketing, web design, pricing strategies, and client acquisition. She knew, in theory, how to do everything. But in practice, she had 0 clients and had made $0. She was an expert on how to run a business she didn't have. She was terrified of making the wrong move, so she made no move at all. When we started working together, the first thing I did was put her on an information diet. No more business podcasts. No more marketing blogs. No more online courses. For the first 2 weeks, her only job was to follow a ridiculously simple 3-step plan. Step 1. I had her identify a single type of client she wanted to work with, in her case, local coffee shops. Step 2. I had her create one single simple offer for them. A new menu design package. Step 3. I told her to email or walk into 5 local coffee shops and make that offer. That's it. She was terrified. Felt too simple, too direct. Where was the complex sales funnel? The lead magnet? The social media content strategy? I told her to trust the process. She followed the plan. Out of the 5 shops she contacted, 3 said no, 1 never replied, and 1 said, we were just talking about redoing our menus. Can you send me a quote? She landed her first client that week. It wasn't a 6-figure contract. It was a few $100s. But it was real. It was momentum. It broke the spell of paralysis. That small win gave her the confidence to contact 5 more. The feedback from that first client helped her refine her offer. A few months later, she had a steady stream of work, all built on that initial simple action-oriented plan. The information she already had wasn't useless, but it was premature. She was trying to learn Chapter 20 when she just needed to master Page 1. A coach provided the sequence. They provided the permission to ignore everything else and just focus on the next indicated step. So, if you look at your own life right now and see a mountain of consumed content but only a molehill of actual results, that is a massive sign. It's not a sign that you're lazy or incapable. It's a sign that you're overloaded. You don't need another 10-hour course. You need a 10-minute conversation with someone who can tell you exactly what to do next, and just as importantly, what not to do. You need a filter, a guide, a personal GPS to get you out of the library of theory and onto the battlefield of action. Because progress isn't made by knowing all the paths. It's made by walking one. But here's the interesting thing. Sometimes you can have that perfectly clear, simple plan. You might even get it from a coach. You know exactly what the next step is. It's written down, it's clear as day. And yet you still don't do it. You find yourself procrastinating, making excuses, and letting another day slip by without taking that crucial action. This reveals a completely different, and often deeper obstacle standing in your way. It's a problem that no amount of information, no matter how perfectly filtered, can solve on its own. This brings us to the second major sign that you need a coach, a sign that has less to do with the map and everything to do with the engine inside the car. The second sign is what I call the consistency paradox. It's the strange, frustrating reality that the more you know you should do something, the harder it can be to actually do it, day in and day out. You have the perfect workout plan, but the gym shoes stay in the closet. You've designed the ideal morning routine, but the snooze button wins the war every single time. You have a brilliant business strategy, but the execution happens in short, frantic bursts, separated by long valleys of procrastination. It feels like you're a high-performance race car with a full tank of premium fuel, but someone forgot to install the ignition. You can't get the engine to turn over consistently. This isn't a knowledge problem. You know what to do. This is an activation problem, and it's one of the most insidious traps on the path to reaching your potential, because it masquerades as a character flaw. We tell ourselves we're lazy or unmotivated, or that we just don't have the willpower. We look at successful people and assume they were born with some superhuman reserve of discipline that we simply lack. But that's a myth. High performers, athletes, and top-tier executives don't run on motivation. Motivation is a fleeting, unreliable emotion. It's like a sugar rush. It feels great, but it always leads to a crash. They don't wait until they feel like performing. They run on something far more powerful and far less sexy: systems and accountability. Let me tell you about a client I once worked with. We'll call her Sarah. Sarah was a brilliant graphic designer. Her portfolio was stunning. She'd invested thousands of dollars in courses. She knew her software inside and out, and she had a clear vision for a six-figure freelance business. She had the perfect map, but her income was stuck at around $3,000 a month, just enough to get by. When we dug into it, the problem was obvious. She would have an amazing week where she'd send out 50 proposals, land 2 new clients, and feel on top of the world. Then she'd spend the next 3 weeks just servicing those clients, doing zero marketing, zero outreach. Her business development engine would roar to life, then immediately shut off. She was living in a constant cycle of feast and famine, of intense action followed by complete inertia. She told me, "I just can't seem to stay motivated to do the marketing stuff. I know I need to, but after a long day of design work, it's the last thing I want to do." And that's the key. She was waiting to want to do it. She was waiting for the feeling of motivation to strike. The consistency paradox is this: action precedes motivation far more often than motivation precedes action. It's the act of starting, of turning the key in the ignition, that generates the momentum and the positive feeling, not the other way around. The challenge is that the initial act of starting requires overcoming a huge amount of inertia. Psychologists call it activation energy. It's the mental friction you have to push through to get off the couch, to open the blank document, to pick up the phone. On our own, that friction can feel like a concrete wall. This is where a coach stops being a strategist and becomes an accountability partner. And that's a role that is fundamentally misunderstood. Most people think accountability is about having a drill sergeant who yells at you when you don't perform. That's not it at all. True, effective accountability is about creating an external structure that dramatically lowers your internal activation energy. It's not about pressure. It's about support. It's the simple, powerful knowledge that another human being, someone you respect and have a financial and emotional investment with, is going to ask you a simple question. Did you do what you said you were going to do? That one question completely changes the calculus in your brain. Suddenly, the pain of not doing the task becomes greater than the pain of doing it. For Sarah, we implemented a simple system. Every Friday at 4 p.m., she had to send me an email with a single number. The number of new client proposals she had sent that week. The target was 10. Not 50, just 10. It was a small, achievable number. But here's what happened. On Monday, her brain knew that Friday at 4 p.m. was coming. The deadline wasn't some vague, distant goal of, "I should do more marketing." It was a concrete event. On Tuesday, when she felt tired, the thought of having to email me the number 0 or 2 was more uncomfortable than just spending 30 minutes finding and messaging 3 potential clients. We didn't focus on her motivation. We didn't talk about vision boards or affirmations. We built a non-negotiable system, and I became the external anchor for that system. Within 2 months, her pipeline was consistently full. Within 6 months, she had broken the $10,000 a month barrier. Not because she suddenly became a more motivated person, but because we removed motivation from the equation. We replaced it with a system of manageable action and gentle, consistent accountability. The engine was no longer starting and stopping. It was humming along week after week. A coach in this sense is your co-pilot. They don't fly the plane for you, but they help you run the pre-flight checklist. They help you design the flight plan, and they sit beside you to make sure you stay on course, especially when you hit turbulence or feel the fatigue of a long flight. They help you build the habits that make success inevitable, not just possible. It's about creating an environment where the default option is to act, rather than to procrastinate. We worked on crafting a 2-hour deep work block for marketing first thing in the morning, before the day's chaos could derail her. We set up automated reminders. We turned a vague, unpleasant task into a specific, time-blocked, and non-negotiable ritual. Think about it, every elite performer on the planet relies on this. A professional athlete doesn't wake up and ask themselves, "Do I feel like going to practice today?" The schedule, the team, and the coach make the decision for them. Their environment is engineered for consistency. A concert pianist doesn't rely on inspiration to practice their scales. It's a non-negotiable part of their day, locked into their calendar, and often overseen by a mentor or teacher. They have outsourced their discipline to a system, and that system is held in place by accountability. So the second sign is this. You know what you need to do, you may even have a brilliant plan, but you find yourself unable to execute consistently. You live in a cycle of starts and stops, of intense progress followed by frustrating stagnation. This is not a moral failing. It's a systems failure. It's a sign that you need an external force to help you build the structure of discipline and provide the accountability that finally allows your engine to run smoothly, day in and day out, turning your potential into actual measurable results. But what happens when you have a perfect map and your engine is humming along consistently, but you're completely blind to the giant career-ending pothole that's just 10 feet ahead of you? This is a different kind of problem, one that no amount of information or discipline can solve. This leads us to the third, and perhaps the most powerful sign that you need a coach. You have a blind spot, a big one, and the very nature of a blind spot is that you, by definition, cannot see it. It's the reason why a brilliant software engineer, the most talented coder at her company, keeps getting passed over for a promotion to team lead. She thinks it's office politics. She thinks her boss just doesn't like her. What she can't see is that while her code is elegant, her communication is brutal. Her direct feedback in team meetings comes across as condescending, shutting down collaboration. She sees herself as efficient. Her team sees her as a roadblock. She's staring so intently at the code on her screen, she can't see the faces of the people around her. That's a blind spot. It's the reason a fitness enthusiast, who meticulously tracks every calorie and every rep, hits a plateau for 6 months and can't figure out why. He's bought all the supplements, read all the studies. He thinks he just needs to push harder to add more weight to do one more set. His blind spot. He's chronically overtraining. His cortisol levels are through the roof, his sleep is terrible, and his body is in a constant state of stress and inflammation. He's so focused on the work that he can't see that the real key to his growth is recovery. He's trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation of quicksand. These aren't problems of information or motivation. The engineer is motivated. The fitness enthusiast has all the information. Their problem is one of perspective. They are the fish who cannot see the water they are swimming in. A coach isn't there to give them more information. A coach is there to pull them out of the water for a moment and show them the entire ocean. Let me tell you a story about a woman named Sarah. Sarah was an incredibly talented graphic designer who started her own branding agency. In the beginning, it was just her laptop, and a relentless drive. And she was wildly successful. Clients loved her work, her passion, her attention to detail. Soon, she had too much work to handle alone, so she did what every successful founder does. She hired a team. She brought on 2 junior designers and a project manager. And that's when the trouble started. Suddenly, projects were late. Clients started complaining about small mistakes. Sarah found herself constantly stressed, working until 2 in the morning, redoing the work her team had submitted. She felt a rising tide of frustration. Why can't they just do it right? She'd muttered to herself. Don't they care as much as I do? She believed the problem was her team. She thought she'd made bad hires. Her solution was to double down, to control everything more tightly. She created complex approval processes. Every single design, every email, every social media post had to go through her. She became the bottleneck, the central hub through which everything had to pass. Her business stopped growing. In fact, it started to shrink. Her team was demoralized. They stopped offering creative ideas because they knew Sarah would just change them anyway. They did the bare minimum, waiting for her instructions, because any attempt at autonomy was met with a red pen. Sarah was burning out, working harder than ever but getting worse results. She was the star player, the coach, and the referee all at once, and she was losing the game. Finally, at her wit's end, she hired a business coach. She expected the coach to give her new sales strategies or marketing funnels. The coach did none of that. In their first session, the coach asked a simple question. Sarah, what would happen if you took a 2-week vacation, starting tomorrow, with no phone and no email? Sarah's heart started pounding. She laughed nervously. That's impossible. The whole company would fall apart. The coach just nodded. Tell me more about that. For the first time, Sarah was forced to confront the system she had built. The coach didn't give her answers. He gave her a mirror. He arranged for anonymous 360-degree feedback from her team. When Sarah read the report, she broke down in tears. The words were devastating. Micromanager. Doesn't trust us. I feel like a robot. I've stopped trying to be creative. It was the most painful feedback of her life and also the most valuable. She finally saw her blind spot. The problem wasn't her team's incompetence. It was her own inability to let go. Her attention to detail was actually a fear of losing control. Her quality control was actually a lack of trust. She was so busy doing the work that she had failed at the most important part of her new job: leading the people who do the work. This is what a great coach does. They don't just look at the map you're holding. They climb the nearest mountain to see the entire landscape. They can see that the bridge you're aiming for is out, and that there's a much better crossing just half a mile up the river, a crossing you never would have seen from your position on the ground. You might be thinking, I'm pretty self-aware. I don't think I have any major blind spots. That is what everyone thinks. It's the paradox of self-awareness. How can you be aware of what you're unaware of? We all have a story we tell ourselves about who we are, why we succeed, and why we fail. A coach is an expert at reading between the lines of that story. They are professionally detached. They aren't your friend who's afraid to hurt your feelings. They aren't your partner who's emotionally invested in your decisions. Their only agenda is your growth. They'll be the one to ask you, you say you want to be a leader, but I've noticed you interrupt your colleagues in every meeting. Can you tell me about that? They'll be the one to say, you claim you want financial freedom, but your actions show you spend every dollar you make on things that don't build wealth. What's the disconnect here? They point to the gap between the person you say you want to be and the person your actions show you are. That gap is where your blind spots live. Without that external, objective, and skilled perspective, you can spend years, even decades, stuck in the same loop, blaming external circumstances, bad luck, or other people for a problem that is being created by a lever you can't see you're pulling. You'll keep pushing harder on the gas, not realizing your other foot is firmly on the brake. Finding and addressing these blind spots isn't just a small tweak. It's the difference between incremental improvement and a quantum leap. It's the kind of breakthrough that changes the entire trajectory of your career, your health, and your life. But what if the problem isn't what you can't see? What if the problem is that you see everything? An endless buffet of options, each one pulling you in a different direction. A new career path, a new diet, a new investment strategy, a new side hustle. You're not stuck because you lack a path. You're stuck because you're standing at a crossroads with 1,000 paths, completely paralyzed. This paralysis of choice is the fourth sign that you might need a coach. It's a phenomenon known as analysis paralysis. You have so many options that the act of choosing becomes more overwhelming than the act of doing. A coach doesn't necessarily give you the one right path. Instead, a great coach acts as a filter. They help you cut through the noise by asking the one question that matters. What do you actually want? Not what you think you should want. Not what looks good on paper. But what aligns with your core values, your unique strengths, your ultimate vision for your life. They help you simplify the equation. Instead of 1,000 paths, they help you see the 3 that truly matter. And from those 3, they help you build the confidence to take the first step on one. They turn a paralyzing map of infinite choices into a clear, actionable plan. They don't choose for you. They empower you to make your own best choice, free from the weight of a million maybes. And that brings us to the fifth and final sign. This one is subtle. It often masquerades as strength, but it's one of the most corrosive forces that can stall your potential. The fifth sign is that you feel completely and utterly alone on your journey. Maybe you're an entrepreneur, a creator, or a high performer in your company. On the outside, things look good. You're achieving things. You're moving forward. But when you go home at night, who do you talk to about the real stuff? Who do you talk to about the fear that this month's revenue won't cover payroll? Who do you confide in when you feel like a total imposter, just one mistake away from being exposed? You can't talk to your employees. You have to be the unshakable leader. You can't talk to your spouse or partner because you don't want to burden them with your stress, or maybe they just don't fully understand the pressure. You try talking to your old friends, but they're on a different path. You start talking about your business challenges, and you can see their eyes glaze over. They offer well-meaning but generic advice like, just hang in there, or don't work so hard. They mean well, but it just makes you feel even more isolated. It's like you're speaking a different language. Your wins feel like bragging, and your problems feel like complaining. So you stop talking. You internalize everything. You carry the weight of your ambition entirely on your own shoulders. This is the loneliness of the high achiever. It's a silent progress killer. Let me tell you about a client of mine, we'll call him David. David started a marketing agency from his spare bedroom. For 3 years he grinded. Late nights, early mornings, learning everything from sales to accounting on the fly. And it worked. He grew the agency to a team of 15 people and a 7-figure revenue stream. By all external metrics, he was a massive success. But internally, he was falling apart. He was the sole decision maker. Every client problem, every employee issue, every financial decision landed on his desk. He felt like he was constantly spinning plates, terrified that if he paused for a second, they would all come crashing down. He told me about a time he had to make a decision about firing a longtime employee, who was a good person but was no longer performing. Tortured him for weeks. He couldn't sleep. He'd ask his wife for advice and she'd say, "Do what you think is right, honey." He'd mention it to his dad, who'd worked the same union job for 40 years, and his dad would say, "You can't just fire someone, that's their livelihood." No one understood the nuance, the responsibility he felt to the rest of the team to maintain high standards, the financial pressure, the human cost. He was making the biggest decisions of his life in a complete vacuum, an echo chamber of his own stress and anxiety. His growth had created a gap between him and everyone he used to rely on. He was on an island of his own making. This is where a coach becomes not just a luxury, but a lifeline. A coach is a confidential, unbiased, professional sounding board. They have no emotional stake in your business or your life, which means they can be objective in a way no one else can. When David finally hired a coach, the first thing he said was, "For the first time in 3 years, I feel like I can finally breathe." He could lay out the entire messy situation about the underperforming employee without filtering himself. He could admit he was scared. He could admit he didn't know what to do. The coach didn't give him the answer. Instead, they asked powerful questions. What are the facts of the situation, separate from your emotions? What is the best outcome for the company? What is the most compassionate way to handle this for the individual? What precedent does your decision set for your company culture? By guiding him through this framework, the coach helped David arrive at his own decision. A decision that was clear, fair, and aligned with his values. He wasn't just getting advice. He was learning a new way to think through complex leadership problems. That one conversation was worth more than a dozen business books, because it was applied directly to his real-world, high-stakes problem. Furthermore, a good coach has a network. They understand this isolation because they've seen it in dozens of other clients. The best coaches often run masterminds or small group sessions, connecting you with a curated group of peers who are on the same level. Suddenly, you're not on an island anymore. You're in a room, virtual or physical, with other people who speak your language. You share a win, and instead of awkward silence, you get 5 people asking you to break down exactly how you did it. You share a problem, and you get a flood of experience from others who have been through the exact same thing. This is the antidote to the loneliness of ambition. It's not just about emotional support. It's a strategic advantage. You are crowdsourcing wisdom and accelerating your learning curve exponentially. Think about it. Every top athlete on the planet has a coach. Serena Williams, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady. Do you think they have coaches because they don't know how to play their sport? Of course not. They have coaches to see their blind spots, to push them when they want to quit, to hold them accountable to the highest standard, to strategize and see the game from a perspective they can't see when they're on the court. They have coaches because the journey to the top is too demanding and too lonely to do it all by yourself. So the 5th sign is this: you're navigating your biggest challenges and your biggest opportunities alone. You're the hero of your own story, but you've forgotten that every hero needs a guide. Your friends and family are your cheerleaders, and that's invaluable. But a coach is the person in your corner, the one who helps you see the fight clearly. Tape your gloves and get back in the ring when you're ready to give up. So let's recap the 5 signs we've covered. 1. Your growth has plateaued. You're stuck on a treadmill, working hard but going nowhere. 2. You know what to do, but you can't get yourself to do it consistently. The gap between your knowledge and your action is widening. 3. You're suffering from a chronic lack of clarity. You feel busy but not productive, lost in a fog of uncertainty about your next move. 4. You're overwhelmed by opportunity. You have so many potential paths that you're paralyzed by choice. And 5. You feel isolated. You're carrying the weight of your ambition entirely on your own. If one or more of these signs are screaming out at you right now, it's a powerful indicator. It's a signal that the way you've been operating has taken you as far as it can. But recognizing the need is only the first step. The online world is flooded with so-called coaches and gurus. How do you find someone who can deliver real transformation versus someone who just has a slick sales funnel? How do you tell the difference between a genuine mentor and a digital snake oil salesman? Choosing the wrong coach can be more than just a waste of money. It can be actively damaging to your progress and your mindset. And that is exactly what we need to break down next. The critical framework for finding and vetting a world-class coach who is right for you. So, how do you navigate this minefield? How do you separate the genuine mentors from the marketing gurus who are just experts at selling you a dream? You do it with a system, a framework, a non-negotiable checklist that protects your wallet, your time, and most importantly, your ambition. Think of this as the 4 pillars of vetting, the framework that will allow you to confidently identify and invest in a coach who can genuinely change your trajectory. The first and most critical pillar is results, not rhetoric. This sounds obvious, but it's the place most people get tripped up. They get mesmerized by a coach's charisma, their slick social media presence, or their compelling personal story. They talk a great game. They speak with authority and passion. But passion doesn't pay your bills, and charisma doesn't build your business. What you need is proof. Cold, hard, verifiable proof of transformation. We're not talking about those one-sentence testimonials on a website that say, "John was great. I loved working with him." That's the equivalent of a restaurant review saying the food was edible. Tells you nothing. You are looking for detailed case studies, real stories of real people who started in a place similar to where you are now and who achieved the specific kind of results you are looking for. A powerful case study doesn't just show the glorious after picture. It details the messy before. It outlines the specific challenges the client was facing. It walks you through the strategy the coach implemented, and it quantifies the outcome, not with vague terms like more confident or felt better, but with concrete metrics. We increased revenue by 40% in 6 months. We cut our workweek down from 60 hours to 40 while maintaining output. We successfully launched the product and hit 10,000 users in the first 90 days. Those are results. Everything else is just talk. A coach without a portfolio of detailed case studies is like a surgeon who has only ever read books about surgery. You don't want to be their first patient on the operating table. Don't be afraid to ask for this directly. On a call, say, "This sounds fantastic. Can you walk me through a specific case study of a client who was struggling with the exact same plateau I'm facing? What was the process? What were the key turning points? And what were the tangible outcomes?" A great coach will be thrilled you asked. They'll be proud to show you their work. A coach who gets defensive, who dodges the question, or who points back to their own personal success story is waving a giant red flag. Their success doesn't automatically transfer to you. You need to see evidence that they can replicate their success for others. The second pillar is congruence of philosophy. This is where we move beyond the numbers and into the soul of the coaching relationship. A coach can have incredible results, but if their fundamental approach to life, work, or success is diametrically opposed to yours, the partnership is destined to fail. You are not just hiring a strategist. You are adopting a mentor's worldview. You have to make sure it's one you can live with. For example, if you're a parent trying to build a side business with the goal of achieving more freedom and family time, hiring a hustle culture guru who preaches sleeping 4 hours a night and working every weekend is a recipe for burnout and misery. Their philosophy is built on brute force and sacrifice. Your philosophy is built on leverage and balance. It's an oil and water situation. Conversely, if you're a young, hungry entrepreneur ready to go all in and build an empire, a coach focused on slow, mindful growth and work-life harmony might feel frustratingly passive. How do you vet for this? You consume their free content voraciously. Watch their YouTube videos. Listen to their podcast interviews. Read their blog posts. What is the underlying message in everything they produce? Are they promoting aggression or empathy? Is their focus on internal mindset shifts or external tactics? Do they value speed above all else, or do they champion sustainability? You're listening for the unspoken assumptions, the core values that drive their advice. You are looking for a philosophical partner whose definition of success mirrors your own. When you find that alignment, the advice doesn't just make sense strategically, it resonates with you on a personal level, making it 100 times easier to implement. This leads us to the third pillar, the coaching container. This is the nuts and bolts of the agreement, the actual structure of the coaching program. This is where the marketing promises meet reality, and a lack of clarity here can lead to massive disappointment. The question isn't just, what do I get? But, How is the value delivered? You need to understand the exact format. Is it one-on-one coaching where you have the coach's undivided attention? This is the most personalized and often the most potent, but it's also the most expensive. Is it a group coaching program? This can be incredibly powerful, offering a community of peers and diverse perspectives at a lower price point, but you will get less individual time with the coach. Is it a hybrid model with group calls and a few one-on-one sessions? Or is it a digital course with a community forum, where direct access to the coach is minimal? None of these is inherently better than the other. They just serve different needs and budgets. The key is to have absolute clarity on what you are signing up for. Before you ever make a payment, you should be able to answer these questions. How many calls do I get per month? How long is each call? What platform are they on? What is the expected response time for questions between calls? Do I have email access, a private Slack channel, or a Voxer support line? What are the policies for rescheduling a session? What resources, templates, or materials are included? A professional coach will have all of this clearly laid out. Vague answers like, "You'll have my full support," are not enough. You need to know what full support actually looks like on a Tuesday afternoon when you're stuck on a problem. Defining the container protects both you and the coach and sets the relationship up for success from day one. Finally, we have the fourth pillar, which might be the most human of all, the chemistry check. After all the due diligence, after vetting the results, the philosophy, and the container, it all comes down to a simple question. Can I build a relationship of trust and respect with this person? Even the most brilliant coach on paper is useless to you if you don't connect with them, if you don't feel safe being vulnerable with them, or if, frankly, their personality just grates on you. This is what the discovery call is for. And you must reframe this call in your mind. It is not just a sales call for them to close you. It is an interview for you to assess them. During that call, pay close attention to the dynamics. Are they listening more than they are talking? A great coach is a master diagnostician. They should be asking you powerful, insightful questions that get to the root of your problem, not just waiting for their turn to talk about their program. Do they make you feel heard and understood? Or do they make you feel small and pressured? A great coach empowers you even on the first call. A salesperson makes you feel a sense of lack and urgency. Trust your intuition. Your gut feeling is data. After the call, ask yourself, do I feel energized and inspired? Or do I feel drained and anxious? Do I admire this person's communication style? Would I feel comfortable telling this person I failed at something? This isn't about finding a new best friend. It's about finding a guide you can trust implicitly. The coaching relationship requires immense vulnerability. You have to be willing to share your biggest fears, your ugliest failures, and your most audacious dreams. You can only do that with someone you have genuine chemistry with. Following this four-pillar framework, results, philosophy, container, and chemistry, puts the power back in your hands. It transforms you from a hopeful customer into a discerning investor in your own future. But finding the perfect coach is only one side of the equation. The other, arguably more important side, is becoming the perfect client. Because the world's greatest coach can't help someone who isn't coachable. So, how do you prepare yourself to maximize every single dollar and every single minute you invest? How do you show up in a way that makes your success almost inevitable? That's the critical piece we're piecing together next. It begins not with the coach but with you. The most profound, life-altering coaching experiences are co-created. The coach is a catalyst, a guide, a mirror. But you are the hero of this story. You are the one who has to walk the path. And showing up ready to do that work is the single greatest variable in your potential for success. It's about cultivating a specific state of being, a mindset that acts as a magnet for breakthroughs. Let's call it the code of the coached. And it's built on four foundational pillars. The first pillar is radical openness. This is the willingness to suspend your disbelief. It's the courage to question the very assumptions that have built your current reality. Think of it like this. You can't pour fresh, clean water into a cup that's already full of stale, muddy water. You have to be willing to empty your cup. For many high achievers, this is the hardest part. You've gotten this far based on what you know. Your expertise, your experience, your deeply held beliefs. They are the bedrock of your identity. But what if that bedrock is also the ceiling? What if the very things that got you here won't get you there? I once heard about a top-tier sales executive, let's call him Mark. Mark was a legend in his company, consistently hitting his numbers for a decade. But the market shifted, new technologies emerged, and his tried-and-true methods started to fail. His income dipped. Frustrated, he hired a coach who specialized in modern sales techniques. In their first session, the coach suggested a completely new approach to prospecting, one that felt counterintuitive and frankly a bit beneath Mark. Mark's immediate reaction was defensive. He spent 20 minutes explaining to the coach why that wouldn't work in his industry for his clients with his personality. The coach listened patiently and then said, "Mark, you hired me to help you build a bridge to your future. Right now, you're using all your energy to defend the island you're stranded on." That sentence hit him like a lightning bolt. He was paying a fortune for expert advice only to argue with it. He was clinging to the identity of the person who was successful, preventing himself from becoming the person who could be successful again. He had a choice: be right or get results. He chose results. He emptied his cup. He tried the new method, felt foolish doing it, fumbled through it, and within a month he landed the biggest client of his career. Radical openness isn't about blindly accepting everything a coach says. It's about having the humility to try a different way, to run the experiment, to be a beginner again, even when you're an expert. This leads directly to the second pillar: extreme ownership. A great coach is not a savior. They are not there to do the work for you, fix your problems, or carry your emotional baggage. Their role is to hold up a mirror and ask the hard questions that force you to take responsibility for your own life. The uncoachable person lives in a world of excuses and external blame. The economy is bad. My boss is unfair. The algorithm changed. My partner doesn't support me. They see themselves as a victim of circumstance. The coachable person, the one who experiences transformation, takes 100% responsibility for everything: the good, the bad, and the ugly. They operate from the belief that they are the primary creative force in their own life. When they fail, they don't say, "The plan didn't work." They say, "I didn't execute the plan correctly. What can I learn? How can I adapt?" This shift is monumental. It moves you from a passive position to an active one. It takes the power back from the world and places it squarely in your own hands. A coach can give you the best financial plan in the world, but they can't force you to stop impulse spending. They can give you a revolutionary workout routine, but they can't lift the weights for you. They can give you a communication framework to save your relationship, but they can't make you have the difficult conversation. Extreme ownership is the understanding that the coach provides the map, but you have to drive the car. You have to buy the gas. You have to navigate the detours. When you fully embrace this, the dynamic changes. You stop looking for someone to save you and start partnering with someone to empower you. The third pillar is a ferocious bias for action. Information alone is worthless. We are drowning in information. You can read 1,000 books on entrepreneurship, watch 1,000,000 videos on fitness, listen to 100 podcasts on productivity, and nothing in your life will change. Transformation doesn't happen when you learn something new. It happens when you do something new. The most successful coaching clients are not the smartest or the most talented. They are the ones who implement the fastest. They treat coaching sessions not as therapy sessions to be mulled over, but as strategic briefings before a mission. They leave the call with a clear, concise action plan, and they execute it immediately. They understand that clarity comes from engagement, not from thought. You don't think your way to a new reality. You act your way into it. Imagine a client who wants to start a podcast. The uncoachable client will spend 6 months researching the perfect microphone, designing the perfect cover art, outlining the first 50 episodes, and worrying about what people will think. They are stuck in analysis paralysis. The coachable client, after their first session, will be told, "Your only goal this week is to record a 5-minute episode on your phone about anything and send it to me. Doesn't have to be good. It just has to be done." They take imperfect action. And in that action, they learn more than they ever would from 6 months of research. They learn their voice sounds different on a recording. They learn they say a lot. They learn that 5 minutes feels like an eternity. They now have real-world data, and with that data, the coach can actually help them improve. Imperfect action is infinitely more valuable than perfect inaction. Finally, the fourth pillar, and perhaps the most crucial, a commitment to brutal honesty. Your coach can only be as effective as the information you give them. If you hide the truth, you are kneecapping the entire process. If you pretend you did the work when you didn't, if you say your sales are great when they're not, if you act like you're confident when you're terrified, you are not just lying to your coach, you are lying to yourself. You are paying for a surgeon and then pointing to the wrong part of your body. This requires vulnerability. It requires the courage to show up in your totality. Flaws, fears, failures, and all. It's about being able to say, "I messed up. I know we set that goal, but I got scared and I self-sabotaged." Or, I know you told me to do X, but I didn't because deep down I don't believe I deserve it. These are the moments where the real coaching begins. A good coach doesn't want your polished, perfect representative. They want the real you, because that's the only person they can truly help. When you bring that level of honesty to the table, you create a space of psychological safety and deep trust where true breakthroughs are born. The coach stops being just an advisor and becomes a true confidant, a partner in your growth. Radical openness, extreme ownership, a bias for action, and brutal honesty. This is the code. This is how you prepare yourself. This is how you transform a coaching investment from a hopeful expense into a predictable asset. When you embody these 4 pillars, you become a force of nature. You become the kind of client that top-tier coaches dream of working with. You become coachable. And now that you know how to show up, how to prepare your own mind for a massive transformation, we arrive at the final critical question. You've done the internal work. You're ready. But when you look out at the world, the internet is a deafening sea of so-called gurus, mentors, and experts. How do you find the real deal? How do you separate the life-changing guides from the charismatic frauds who will just take your money and waste your most precious resource? Your time. Vetting a coach is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make, and getting it wrong can set you back years. So how do you get it right? First, you have to accept a fundamental truth. The burden of proof is on them, not you. It is their job to earn your trust and your investment, not your job to give it away on faith. The world of online coaching is an unregulated Wild West, and if you go in with blind optimism, you're going to get fleeced. Your first line of defense is a highly tuned BS detector, and we're going to calibrate it right now. We'll start with the red flags, the giant waving signals that tell you to turn and run in the other direction. The first and most common red flag is what I call the vague promise. It's the coach who speaks entirely in motivational platitudes. They talk about unlocking your inner greatness, stepping into your power, achieving an abundance mindset, or crushing your limiting beliefs. These phrases sound amazing. They feel good. But what do they actually mean? Nothing. They are cotton candy for the mind, sweet, airy, and utterly devoid of substance. A real coach with a real process can articulate that process with surgical precision. If you ask them, okay, that sounds great, but what do we actually do in week 1? What's the specific framework you use to help me get from point A to point B? And their answer is more vague fluff. Run. It's like going to a surgeon who says, I'm going to enhance your vitality. You want the surgeon who says, we're going to perform a triple bypass. Here are the steps, here are the risks, and here is the post-op recovery plan. Specificity is the hallmark of a professional. Vagueness is the camouflage of a fraud. The second red flag is the one-size-fits-all guru. This is the coach who has a single rigid trademark system that they believe is the magic bullet for every single person on earth. They found the secret, and for a hefty price, they'll sell it to you. The problem is, you are not a generic human. Your challenges, your goals, your personality, your history, they are all unique to you. A system that worked for a 22-year-old college dropout trying to start a t-shirt business is not going to work for a 45-year-old executive trying to navigate corporate politics and balance a family. A great coach doesn't sell a rigid system. They offer a flexible framework. They have a toolbox, not just a hammer. Their initial conversations with you should be 80% them listening and 20% them talking. They should be diagnosing your specific situation, asking deep, probing questions to understand the unique contours of your problem. If it feels like they're just waiting for you to finish talking so they can launch into their prepackaged pitch, they don't see you as a person. They see you as a nail, and they've only got one hammer. The third red flag is the social proof mirage. This one is tricky because it preys on our cognitive biases. We see a coach with 200,000 followers, a slick-looking website, and a dozen video testimonials of smiling clients saying, "He changed my life." We instantly think, this person must be legit. But social proof can be easily manufactured and is often incredibly misleading. Follower counts can be bought. Testimonials can be from friends or worse, carefully cherry-picked from a sea of dissatisfied customers. You have to look deeper. Ask for specifics. Instead of accepting "he changed my life," you need to ask, can I speak to a former client who was in a similar situation to me? A legitimate coach with a track record of success will often be happy to connect you with someone. A fraud will get defensive and give you a dozen reasons why that's not possible. Also, look at the quality of the testimonials. Are they specific? Do they mention concrete results? Working with Sarah helped me restructure my sales process. which led to a 25% increase in qualified leads in the first quarter, is 1,000 times more valuable than "Sarah is amazing." Look for evidence, not just enthusiasm. The final major red flag is the pressure cooker close. This is classic high-pressure sales 101, and it has no place in a legitimate coaching relationship. It's the "this discounted price is only available for the next 24 hours," or "I only have 2 spots left and 5 other people are interested, so you need to decide right now." This tactic is designed to short-circuit your rational brain. It creates a false sense of urgency and scarcity to trigger a fear of missing out, forcing you to make an emotional decision instead of a logical one. A truly confident, effective coach doesn't need to do this. Their value speaks for itself. They want you to be 100% certain and committed before you begin. They will encourage you to take your time, think it over, and talk to your spouse. They know that a client who is pressured into a sale is a client who will have buyer's remorse and will likely not be a good partner in the long run. Anyone who tries to rush you into a major financial and personal decision is not a coach. They're a salesperson, and they're selling you, not serving you. So now that we know what to run away from, what should we run towards? This brings us to the green lights, the definitive signs that you've found a potential game changer. The first and most important green light is that they have walked the walk. The best coaches are practitioners, not just theorists. They have successfully navigated the very terrain you're trying to cross. If you want to scale a business to 8 figures, your coach should have scaled a business to 8 figures. If you want to become a world-class public speaker, your coach should be a world-class public speaker. This seems obvious, but you'd be shocked how many business coaches have never run a successful business, or fitness coaches who aren't in shape themselves. They've read the books, they've taken the courses, but they haven't been in the arena. There's a profound difference between a person who can teach you the theory of swimming from a textbook and a person who can pull you out of a riptide because they've survived one themselves. Look for the person who has the results you want in their own life. Their past is a potential preview of your future. The second green light is a clear, replicable process. This is the antidote to the vague promise red flag. When you talk to them, they should be able to articulate their methodology clearly and concisely. You should be able to ask, "Can you walk me through what the first 90 days of working together would look like for someone in my exact position?" And they should be able to give you a detailed, logical answer. It might sound something like this: "Okay, in month 1, we focus entirely on diagnostics. We'll use these 3 frameworks to audit your time, your energy, and your current systems to find the biggest bottleneck. In month 2, we'll design and implement a new operational system to solve that bottleneck, with weekly check-ins to track these specific KPIs. In month 3, we'll refine that system and begin building the next one." You see the difference? It's a plan. It's a strategy. It's not magic, it's a methodology. They can show you the map because they've made the journey before. The third green light is that they manage your expectations. A charlatan sells the dream. A real coach sells the process. They'll be brutally honest with you. They won't promise you a 6-pack in 6 weeks or $1 million business in a year. Instead, they'll say things like, "This is going to be hard work. There will be days you want to quit. My job is to hold you accountable and guide you through those moments. Based on historical case studies of clients like you, a realistic outcome in the first 6 months is X. But that's only if you do the work." This kind of honesty can feel less exciting than the hype-filled promises of a guru, but it's a sign of immense integrity. They respect you enough to tell you the truth. They are setting you up for a sustainable long-term partnership, not a short-term dopamine hit. They're selling a challenging journey with a rewarding destination, not a winning lottery ticket. The fourth green light, which builds on the last one, is that they have verifiable specific case studies. We're not talking about the flimsy testimonials from the red flag section. We're talking about in-depth success stories. They should be able to say, "I worked with a client named Michael. He was a VP of marketing just like you, struggling with team alignment. We implemented the traction framework. In the first quarter, his team's key metric completion rate went from 60% to 92%. He got promoted 6 months later. Here's what we did." The more specific the story, the more real it is. The ability to share these stories demonstrates 2 things. First, that they actually get results, and second, that they understand the process of transformation so deeply that they can explain it through the narrative of a real person's journey. Finally, there's the ultimate litmus test. It's one simple question you should ask every potential coach before you even think about hiring them. The question is this: "Tell me about a time you worked with a client and it didn't work out. Why did it fail, and what did you learn from it?" The answer to this question tells you everything you need to know. A fraud, a charlatan, a guru with an inflated ego will claim they've never failed. They'll say they have a 100% success rate, which is the biggest lie in the entire industry. But a true professional, a seasoned expert, will have an answer. They'll be humble. They'll own their part in the failure. They might say, I had a client early on who I couldn't help because I misdiagnosed their problem. I thought they had a productivity issue, but it was actually a deep-seated confidence issue. I learned from that experience that I need to do a much deeper diagnostic phase, which is why I now have a 3-call onboarding process. That answer shows honesty, self-awareness, and a commitment to improvement. That is the person you want in your corner. Finding the right person is a critical step, a decision that can literally alter the trajectory of your life. But finding the right coach is only half the battle. The other half is becoming the right client. Because even the best coach in the world, the most experienced guy, the most brilliant strategist, can't help you if you show up to the partnership with the wrong mindset or a broken approach. And frankly, that's where most people who hire coaches, even the great ones, go wrong, sabotaging their own investment before they even begin. So how do you sabotage the single greatest investment you can make in yourself? It's not by picking the wrong coach, although that can happen. It's by becoming the wrong client. It's by fundamentally misunderstanding the role you play in your own rescue. You see, a coach is not a savior. They are a strategist. They are not a magician. They are a mirror. They can hand you a meticulously drawn map, point out every pitfall, and show you the most efficient route to the treasure, but they cannot, under any circumstances, walk the path for you. That is your job, and your job alone. This brings us to the first pillar of a successful coaching relationship: radical ownership. I want you to burn those 2 words into your brain. Radical ownership. This is the antidote to the most common reason coaching fails: outsourcing responsibility. So many people hire a coach with the subconscious belief that they are paying someone to fix their problems. They show up to calls, take notes, nod their heads, and then they wait. They wait for motivation to strike. They wait for the coach to check in on them. They wait for the results to just materialize. It's like hiring the world's best personal trainer, having them design a flawless nutrition and exercise plan, and then expecting to get fit just by having the plan in your email inbox. The trainer can't lift the weights for you. They can't do your cardio. They can't resist the late-night pizza for you. Their expertise is useless without your execution. I once had a client, let's call him Mark, who was brilliant. He had a fantastic business idea, but he was stuck. For 6 months, we had incredible calls. We brainstormed groundbreaking strategies. We built intricate financial models. We designed marketing funnels that were works of art. But his revenue never budged. Why? Because after every call, Mark would put the playbook on a shelf. He was waiting for the perfect time. He was waiting for more confidence. He was waiting for the universe to align. He had outsourced the responsibility for his success to our weekly calls. He saw the coaching fee as a payment for progress, rather than a payment for a plan that he had to execute to create progress. His investment was a total loss. Contrast that with another client, Sarah. Sarah came to me with less experience than Mark, but she had a fire in her eyes. After our first call, where we outlined a simple 3-step outreach plan, my next email from her wasn't a question. It was a screenshot of a reply from her first potential client, secured less than 24 hours after our call. She hadn't perfected the script. She hadn't built a fancy website. She took the core of the strategy and ran with it, imperfectly and immediately. She understood radical ownership. The coach's job is to clarify the path. The client's job is to run down that path with relentless energy. Before you hire a coach, you must ask yourself, am I looking for a guide, or am I looking for a savior? Because only one of those exists, and if you're looking for the latter, you're better off saving your money. The second pillar is unfiltered honesty. A coaching relationship is one of the few places in your life where you must be brutally, uncomfortably honest. You have to be more honest with your coach than you are with your spouse, your parents, or even yourself. Why? Because a coach operates on the data you provide. If you provide them with garbage data, they will give you garbage advice. It's a simple input-output system. It's like going to the doctor for severe stomach pain but telling them your arm hurts because you're embarrassed. The doctor, working with the information you gave them, will examine your arm, maybe prescribe an anti-inflammatory, and send you on your way while your appendix is getting ready to burst. It's not the doctor's fault. The diagnosis was based on a lie. In the world of business or career coaching, this lie is often a lie of omission or exaggeration. People report vanity metrics. They'll say, "Yeah, last month was great, we hit $20,000 in revenue," but they fail to mention that their expenses were $22,000, and they're 2 weeks away from not making payroll. They'll say, "I'm sticking to the diet perfectly," but they omit the 3 cheat meals that turned into cheat days. They hide their procrastination. They downplay their fears. They paint a rosy picture because they want their coach to be proud of them. They want to look good. But a coach isn't your parent. You are not there to earn their approval. You are paying them for their objective, expert perspective on your reality. And if you present them with a fictional reality, their perspective is worthless to you. The coaching container must be a no-ego zone. You have to be willing to show up and say, "I failed. I messed up. I'm scared. I'm completely lost. Here are the ugly, unfiltered numbers. Here is the unvarnished truth. Now what do we do?" The moment you can do that is the moment a great coach can actually begin to help you. The third and final pillar is a bias for action. This is the bridge between the plan and the result. Radical ownership is the mindset, unfiltered honesty is the input, but a bias for action is the engine. It's the commitment to implementation over information. We live in an age of infinite information. You can watch 100 YouTube videos about how to start a business. You can read 50 books on how to be more productive. You can listen to 1,000 podcasts on how to get in shape. But knowledge is not power. The application of knowledge is power. Most people who are stuck are not suffering from a lack of information. They are suffering from a lack of implementation. They are professional learners and amateur doers. A coach's primary role is to cut through the noise and tell you the 1 or 2 things you need to do right now to get the result you want. They collapse a year of learning into a single week of doing. The most successful coaching clients I have ever seen are the ones who have what I call a 24-hour implementation cycle. They get off a call, and within 24 hours, they have already implemented the core takeaway from that session. It might be messy, it might be imperfect, but it's done. They sent the email, they made the call, they recorded the video, they had the difficult conversation. They understand that progress is a product of velocity, not perfection. Meanwhile, the clients who struggle are the ones who take that same advice and put it on a to-do list for sometime next week. They want to think about it more. They want to research it a bit further. They want to wait until everything is perfectly aligned. And by the time our next call rolls around, nothing has changed. They've spent a week collecting more information, marinating in indecision, and they're in the exact same spot. They've paid for a strategy that's just collecting dust. So, the ultimate sign you are ready for a coach isn't just that you're stuck or that you have a goal. It's an internal readiness. Ask yourself, am I ready to take radical ownership, knowing my success or failure rests entirely on my shoulders? Am I ready to be unfilteredly honest, even when the truth is embarrassing or painful? And am I ready to cultivate a relentless bias for action, choosing imperfect progress today over perfect plans tomorrow? If the answer to all 3 is a resounding yes, then you are no longer just a person who needs a coach. You have become a person who is ready to be coached. You've prepared the soil. Now you just need the right person to help you plant the seeds. But even with the right mindset and the perfect coach, there is one final piece of the puzzle, a practical step that determines whether the relationship thrives or dies on the vine. It's about setting the terms of engagement before you even begin. Think of it less like a business contract and more like a constitution for your transformation. This is where you and a potential coach get brutally honest about expectations. It's where you define what success looks like, not just in 6 months but on a weekly basis. What does showing up mean for you? Is it completing your tasks? Is it being mentally present for your calls? And what does it mean for them? Are they providing feedback within 24 hours? Are they pushing you when you get comfortable? This isn't about micromanagement. It's about mutual respect for the investment being made. Your time, your money, your energy, and their expertise. You need to ask the tough questions. How do you handle disagreements? What's the protocol if I feel like I'm falling behind or the strategy isn't working? A great coach won't just welcome these questions. They'll demand them. They want a client who is an active participant, not a passive passenger. They understand that a clear framework doesn't limit the relationship. It liberates it. It removes ambiguity and allows both of you to focus all your energy on the actual work of growth. Without this upfront alignment, even the most promising partnership can crumble under the weight of unspoken assumptions. You might expect a cheerleader when they see their role as a drill sergeant, or you might be looking for daily check-ins when they only provide weekly reports. Clarity at the start is the foundation for trust throughout the journey. And this brings us to the fifth and final sign, the one that underpins all the others, the one that truly separates those who dabble in self-improvement from those who achieve profound transformation. The fifth sign you need a coach is this: you are ready to invest in the process, not just purchase an outcome. Let that sink in for a moment. There's a world of difference between the two. Buying an outcome is transactional. It's like buying a diet plan and expecting to lose weight just because you paid for it. It's hiring a business consultant and expecting your profits to magically increase without you changing a single thing about your leadership. It's the mindset of, I paid my money, now fix me. This mindset is a recipe for disappointment because it places all the responsibility on the coach and none on you. It fundamentally misunderstands the nature of growth. A coach cannot do your push-ups for you. They can't make the sales calls for you. They can't have the difficult conversations with your family for you. Investing in the process, however, is transformational. This is the mindset shift where you stop looking for a magic bullet and start falling in love with the art of firing the gun. It's when you recognize that the real value isn't just in reaching the summit, but in becoming the kind of person who can climb mountains. You're not just paying for a map. You're paying for climbing lessons. You're paying for someone to teach you how to read the weather, how to tie the knots, how to pace yourself, and most importantly, how to get back up after you fall. When you're ready to invest in the process, you no longer see challenges as failures. You see them as data. You see feedback not as criticism but as fuel. You understand that the most valuable part of coaching isn't the glorious moment you hit your goal. It's the gritty, uncomfortable, and deeply illuminating work you do on a random Tuesday afternoon when you don't feel like it. It's in that moment when your coach helps you push through your own resistance that the real change happens. That's where character is forged. That's where potential is truly unlocked. So ask yourself, are you looking for a quick fix, a shortcut to the finish line? Or are you ready to roll up your sleeves and fundamentally change the way you operate? If it's the latter, then you're not just ready for a coach. You will thrive with one. So let's pull back and look at the whole picture we've painted. These 5 signs are a roadmap to self-awareness. The first sign was the plateau, that feeling of running on a hamster wheel, putting in the effort but going nowhere. It's the universe telling you that the strategies that got you here won't get you there. You need a new perspective to see the exit ramp you've been missing. The second sign was the lack of accountability. Knowing what you need to do is one thing, consistently doing it when no one is watching is another entirely. This is about admitting that your own willpower on its own has its limits. A coach isn't a crutch, they're a structural support, a human deadline that transforms your good intentions into non-negotiable actions. The third sign was information overload, drowning in an endless sea of books, podcasts, and articles, leaving you paralyzed by choice and confused about the first step. A coach acts as your master curator, cutting through the noise to deliver the right information at the right time, turning a fire hose of data into a focused, actionable plan. The fourth sign was the existence of blind spots, the deeply ingrained habits, limiting beliefs, and flawed assumptions that you literally cannot see because you're too close to yourself. A coach is your trusted mirror, reflecting back not just what you want to see, but what you need to see to evolve. They illuminate the invisible scripts that are secretly running your life. And finally, the fifth sign, a readiness to invest in the process, not just the prize. The mature understanding that true growth comes from the work itself, the struggle, the learning, the consistent effort. It's the commitment to becoming a better version of yourself, day by day, with an expert guide by your side. If you've been nodding along, if one or more of these signs resonated deep in your bones, the next question isn't who should I hire? The next question is, what is the one thing I'm pretending not to know? What is the hard truth you've been avoiding? What is the goal you're afraid to even say out loud because you fear you might fail? Before you open a new tab to search for coaches, I want you to do something far more powerful. Take out a piece of paper or open a new note on your phone. Write that goal down. Then, write down the single biggest thing you believe is standing in your way. Don't filter it. Don't judge it. Just get it out of your head and onto the page. That simple act of externalizing your ambition and your obstacle is the first step. It's the moment you stop being a passive dreamer and start being an active architect of your future. That piece of paper is your starting point. That is what you bring to the table. Because at the end of the day, a coach is a powerful catalyst, but you are the core element. They are a force multiplier, but you are the force. They can hand you the key, but you have to have the courage to turn it and walk through the door. Reaching your potential isn't a passive event that happens to you. It's an active choice you make over and over again. It's choosing curiosity over comfort, It's choosing courage over complacency. It's choosing to believe that your future can be bigger than your past. Your potential is not a fixed, distant star to be wished upon. It's a seed planted deep inside you. For years, you may have been watering it with inconsistent effort, giving it sporadic sunlight and hoping for the best. A coach is a master gardener. They know exactly how much water, what kind of light, and what type of soil that specific seed needs to not just sprout, but to grow into something magnificent, something stronger and more resilient than you ever thought possible. They help you prune the dead branches of your limiting beliefs and protect you from the pests of self-doubt. But they can't make the seed grow. Only you can do that. The life force is and always will be yours. The greatest project you will ever work on is you. The question is, are you ready to break ground?